From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We are joined, as always, with our super producer, Seth the Shadow Johnson. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. How's my prop comedy game this morning, guys?
I'm not convinced that you are you, Ben.
You can be anyone you want to be.
Well, we're vast. We contain multitudes. For anyone who sees this on video, I am rocking one of my favorite masks. This is an avatar that I use to do completely non-sketchy things. And today we're talking about something that people will tell you is completely non-sketchy. But for the purposes of today's episode, let me take off this mask real quick.
I have to ask Ben, before we move on, are those blinks one-to-one with your actual blinks, or are they just on a set loop? I have to know.
For now, I have these on a set loop. If we could describe the mask for the people who are listening, this is a neat thing I found a while back. It's a LED mask that allows you to program any number of different symbols. Let's see what else I got here. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It allows you to put in, like now I've moved from just blinking eyes to one big creepy eye that is also sleepy. So let me take this off and let's do the show. Ugh. It's okay, guys. It's me. I'm still here.
It looks like a fencing mask or something, or like one of those Squid Game masks.
Yes. And it's not a super comfortable fit. You can see the lines from where the mask was on my face.
For fashion, baby. Something for fashion.
Just as a reminder and as a framing for this episode, we are all talking to each other via our computers, and we are looking at video representations of one another. And we are not in the same place. And no physical presence here.
And our producer is in the Pacific Northwest.
And I have one of those filters on that makes it look like I've got really high cheekbones. This isn't actually me, guys. It's a facsimile. Yeah. I'm not actually this good looking.
Oh, no, don't beat yourself up. Well, look, we're living in a digital world now. And if you saw the title of today's episode, you probably heard the shiniest new term that's being thrown around Silicon Valley, the Metaverse, not to be confused with the multiverse of various spiritual belief systems and most recently of the Marvel Universe. The Metaverse is the next step in humanity's evolution online. You'll also hear it referred to as Web 3.0. Another antecedent would be the Internet of Things, where all your devices were connected in a larger online agglomeration. But very recently, everybody's favorite social media boogeyman, Facebook, came into the news with a very strange announcement. The company is changing its name. It's becoming part of something bigger. It's calling itself Meta, and it is a big proponent of this metaverse idea. It's evangelizing for it. But the question is, what is it exactly? Why should we care? And should you be afraid of what is certainly about to happen?
You know, when the announcement came that Facebook was going to rebrand, I was really hoping they were going to go with some version of Sweet Baby Ray's. You know, bring that into the family.
Yeah. It's weird that Mark hasn't bought that yet. Also, it's hilarious to me that a PR company spent millions of dollars trying to get Congress to call him Mark instead of Mr. Zuckerberg. Swing and a miss.
I wonder how much I wonder what the budget of that backyard barbecue video of his was. Like he probably spent millions just to make it look kind of boring and banal and like a regular backyard.
What price can you put on wholesomeness? You know, also, it's a shame because they clearly could have gone for a little bit of humor and rebranded to Face Butt. I don't think that's going to happen, but but they didn't answer my email. So here are the facts. We're talking about the metaverse. We have to kind of dissect the term, because like any corporate initiative, there's going to be a lot of newfangled terminology, a lot of slick buzzwords. It's TED Talk style. It's pop science. You want to get people excited, and you don't want them to have to ask too many questions. Let me fix my cowlick here.
Your avatar looks great, Ben.
Oh, thank you.
I'm rocking a full like Lyle Lovett duck hairdo this morning.
And Matt, to reciprocate for that compliment, your avatar always looks awesome. Making my day.
You know it.
just to clarify terms real quick. I mean, a video facsimile, even if it is exactly you, is still an avatar, right?
Yeah, avatar is just a representation of you. So it depends on what you would consider a representation. If you wanted to go hardline with the definition, then anytime you are not physically in the same room with someone talking to them, you are communicating with their avatar. You could even say this about a phone call, because what you're hearing is a reproduction of someone's voice conveyed to you through another medium. So there's an audio avatar as well. As a matter of fact, while you're listening to this podcast, you are hearing 3 avatars. You are hearing our voices translated through several different platforms and mediums to get inside your ears.
You know, it's interesting. One of the other definitions of avatar comes from Hinduism, and it refers to a manifestation of a deity or released soul in bodily form on Earth, which obviously is, what plays into that cartoon series, the Avatar: The Last Airbender. But in a way, that's not that. It's just kind of like a high spiritual kind of definition of what we're talking about. Obviously it makes sense that they would have grabbed that term and sort of retrofitted it for the digital age.
There's also some deep roots in Gnosticism here. The idea of a life lived astride 2 realities, one of which is inherently flawed. But which one? Shout out to all my fellow Gnosticism nerds. We can start a little more recently when we're defining the metaverse. There is a guy I've talked about before on the show. I'm a big fan of the author Neal Stephenson. Neal Stephenson has written so many great things, and shout out Anathem, shout out Seven Eves, specifically shout out Snow Crash here. If you've played the game Cyberpunk, then you are accidentally already intimately familiar with the plot of Snow Crash. This also is going to be familiar to fans of role-playing games, tabletop games like Shadowrun, which is an amazing experience. In Snow Crash, where the term metaverse was first coined in English, it describes the metaverse is a 3D immersive virtual world that is populated by avatars of actual people, of meatbags. And it is a separate virtual universe, but it has real world effects. The real world exists, but it's going to hell in a handbasket. Private corporations have taken over all of the roles traditionally held by states, creating what we would in this age call a kind of anarcho-capitalism. For example, the CIA in this book, this is not a big spoiler, they have merged with the Library of Congress to form a for-profit entity with all the powers of the Congressional Library and all the powers of the CIA called the CIC. Read the book, check it out, not to get too LeVar Burton reading Rainbow about it, but it's worth your time. And of course, people in this story, people still eat, they still sleep, they defecate, they reproduce, they do all their people things, but they spend a ton of time in this online world. And in this novel, in Snow Crash, that virtual reality system is mainstreamed. It's normalized. I was thinking about this, like in that book, it would be weird not to be on the metaverse. And if that sounds crazy, just imagine how weird it would be if you talked to someone today and they didn't have a phone, right? Yeah. A phone is not a human right. It's not something that everyone is assigned at birth yet, but it is incredibly rare in most densely populated parts of the world for someone not to have a mobile device.
Yes, Ben, you're absolutely correct. I would just expand it a little bit more to internet access. And we've talked about this over the course of our show of, there are places in the world where internet access is still not possible, but there are private corporations attempting to make it accessible to everyone on the planet. But I do think existing in this real world without having access to the internet as it exists now is that weird thing, because so many parts of our lives are connected to the internet itself.
Yeah, and we're going to get into some quick statistics of that. It's important because we're looking at a hierarchy of requirements for you to exist online and for you to exist in the metaverse. First, access to electricity. Second, access to materials and gear. Third, access to time, which is a huge resource people don't talk about as often as they should. And fourth, inclination. But inclination, as we know, can be manufactured by bad faith actors. We spent some time off air today talking about how hilarious targeted ad algorithms are. And those are meant to build that fourth requirement. Those are meant to build inclination. And our producer, Seth the Shadow, was talking to us about some just ridiculous ads. But check out our big data episode to learn the absurdity of that situation. You'll see the metaverse referenced in many other works of science fiction, not always using that name, of course. And, Stevenson coined the term, but he was talking about something that people, not just sci-fi authors, have wondered about for a long, long time, right? A separate reality, one that can be altered in ways that are not possible in the analog world. A great example of another sci-fi series that references this is the book Ready Player One and its sequel, which like a ton of the important events in that story take place in this online world. In fact, one of the characters, an avatar, almost in the Hindu sense, is themselves entirely located in that story's version of the metaverse. And then, of course, Matt, had to have this in there for you, man. One extreme version, an extremely unfriendly dystopian version of the metaverse occurs in the Matrix.
Yeah, I would say a metaphorical representation of it.
Well, I was thinking about this because in the Matrix, spoiler alert, you are being warned, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. In the Matrix, the metaverse, their analog, has assumed the role of the primary reality. And the entirety of the franchise, in a very brilliant way, is about discovering this other reality that has existed all along and has been subsumed by this digital realm. So back to our reality as it stands today. In October, Mark Zuckerberg, you know him. I don't know if I'd say you love him, but Mark Zuckerberg said that he is super on board with the metaverse. He doubled down. He said, I'm going to invest billions in this effort, probably, even more than he did in that Sweet Baby Ray's bit. And to signal his sincerity here, he renamed his company Meta. This was funny, and this is also instructive for us and for the critics of Facebook, the critics of the metaverse entire, because we're talking about, like, this is the first example of considering consequences, the importance of doing so. Meta was already a thing. You know what I mean? Like, there were already multiple companies named Meta. Noel, not to put you on the spot, but you have a DJ alias, Metas.
I was waiting to roll it out, man. I was really going to make a big splash, a big debut. It was Metas, actually, and it was more my electronic kind of persona. But man, Zuck you for taking this dream away from me.
Well, you still got it. We'll see who's left standing, and my money's on you. So the thing here is that Facebook not only didn't consider that other people exist and have other companies exist and have created companies called Meta, they also were sort of indemnified from the consequences, right? They imagine being powerful enough that you could say, we're going to start a train company and we're going to call it Toyota. And then someone says, well, Toyota already exists and it is a vehicle company. And you say, fiddle-dee-dee, we'll just buy them. That's the reality Facebook lives in. And I think that's an important point to acknowledge. You have to remember everybody lives in their own sort of individuated reality. And those realities are very different. So you could argue in a way that Mark Zuckerberg and his peers, which there are very few, are already existing in a new reality, in a kind of metaverse. And there's a ton of slick branding, pop science stuff that you'll see out there. There are a lot of weird corporate terms, but the takeaway is this. If everything goes how Facebook and Microsoft and other large companies want it to go, there is a virtual version of you either already out there or on the way. We're going to get to why that's spooky in a bit, but let's pump the brakes. It's important to pump the brakes when we talk about these kind of things. As you know, I personally am often hesitant to explore ongoing events. Like we've been just behind the scenes, folks. We've been planning an episode on Iran for years now. We're doing the same with Ukraine, with Kazakhstan. When you're talking about things in situ, in media res, as they are occurring, you have to realize that for now, predicting the future is an imperfect science. DARPA wants that to change, and they're making scary headway in that regard. And predictive analytics are a huge thing, but the modern metaverse is a conversation that has a lot of scary stuff. It has a lot of misleading stuff, and it has a lot of good faith arguments for why this will be a net benefit for humanity. But this is where we pump the brakes for the first time. If you're listening to this, you know that we love gaming. We love video games, tabletop games, you name it. Card games, of course. Shout out MTG. But if you're a gamer like us, you might hear about the idea of the metaverse, however defined, and you might say, hold on, I've already seen a metaverse. I've seen multiple metaverses, bro. I've seen Second Life. I've seen The Sims. I play Minecraft. I've played any number of RPGs like Skyrim or Red Dead Redemption, Ghost of Tsushima. I'm naming ones we've talked about off air that we've played. So what's the big deal? It's already out there, right?
Feels a little meh to me, but that's the same thing I said when my friend Matt Riddle told me what Twitter was. I was like, oh, no one will ever. That's silly. That doesn't make any sense. No one. That's too few characters to really communicate an idea properly. But he explained it. No, it's going to be about, having kind of a view into the daily lives of celebrities and of untouchable people. And that's going to be the selling point. And he was right. He usually is. He's the guy that also told me COVID was going to explode. I would be very interested to get his take on this. But to me, I remember from when I was teenager, early preteen, I had, everyone, I think we all had those friends who had the internet first, or had the best, had the laser disc player, or had the N64 or whatever. I had a friend who's had early internet, and they had this thing. It was called the Palace, and it was essentially these chat rooms where you would have a bad kind of cutout, JPEG avatar that you could make, and it was all these people populated in these big spaces with flat 2D backgrounds. It was called the Palace. I haven't really thought about it ever since, but this had to have been in the 90s. So the concept is super ununique. What is unique is that it is like you said, Ben, Internet 3.0, which means that this is a way of literally stepping into the internet. So when you're occupying this space, it allows you to do all the things you would normally do on the internet, but much more experientially. Potentially, I don't know if you've tried this, you guys, but on those Oculuses, you can travel to Google Map locations just by using a voice command, and it'll place you there, and you can walk around there. So in theory, what this offers, if we wanted to think cool features, is that you could time teleport to other places and like be there and walk around. The more robust it gets and the more elaborate these scans of these places get, maybe we're in a place where this stuff is happening in real time and you can literally teleport to a facsimile or, some avatar of a real place and interact with other people. That's interesting to me, but is it going to be this big, massive thing that everyone seems to be, placing their bets on, especially Zuckerberg? I don't know. But there's obviously a motive for going all in to the degree that he's going all in. And I have a feeling it's not benevolence and, thoughtfulness for the human race.
Right. If you want true control over a population, you want to control access. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to buy a room in the house. You want to buy the door. And that's where you charge people. There are these antecedents, but we have to be honest here. Most people have not played Minecraft. And when I say most people, I mean most of the almost 8 billion people in the world have not played Minecraft. How many know what it is? Probably a lot. But most people haven't played, a specific video game. It would be really rare. And I'd be interested to see what the world's most popular video game is, like in number of players over time. But we can say something like Neil Stephenson's Metaverse is very much on the way. We mentioned statistics earlier, so let's kick this one. As of January 2021, I was able to find that 4.66 billion people are active on the internet. And that's a number that's recent enough that we could say it holds, like, it's probably the same today. It's probably actually grown a little bit, but as of this time last year, because we're recording this in January 2022, that 4.66 billion people, it works out to about 59.5% of humanity. So more than half of the